So I'm here with Sergio Guzmán. It's always good to see you again, my friend. I think since the last time I saw you in person, I want to congratulate you on your recent marriage. So
Thank you.
That's always a good thing. And we're back here at CGS 2024, the Colombia Gold Summit, originally known. Now, of course, it's expanded and it covers copper and it covers silver. A great event put on every year by Paul Harris and his organization. Sergio, we're in a time right now, we're 2 years into the current administration, and I know that you are a specialist in political risk, and you got up and you opened the session talking about the different challenges and risks that we have. Now, we see that there are some concerning trends when it comes to crime and insecurity, but then we also have political uncertainty. Some other presenters have talked about the, I guess, lack of growth in the sector. Tell me about, if you could just briefly, within 30 seconds or so, recap the message that you gave this morning when it comes to the political risk for the mining sector.
Well, I think if we look at political risk in Colombia in general, it's doing much better than the government's antagonists expect, and much worse than the government proposes. And so it's somewhere in between. The truth usually is somewhere in between. Colombia is not a country that's in an active coup d'etat, but it's also not a country that is a safe haven for investment and for great opportunities. What is true, I think, is something that I've tried to get across, is Colombia is not for the faint of heart. It's a country that needs to be explored, analyzed meticulously, and not just looked at from a surface level depth. So if people are interested in investing here, if people are serious about long-term opportunities here, they need to do their homework.
Let's talk about how has the, and I don't want people to panic or anything like that, but there has been an uptick in insecurity. We look at things in the north of Colombia, Urabá region, also down around Tumaco and things like that. Have we seen a material effect on crime and insecurity when it comes to mining development?
I think there's three things going on at the same time. The first one is insecurity in urban areas is getting worse. The perception of insecurity is also getting worse. In parallel, the government is trying to negotiate simultaneously with 9 different armed organizations, right? And that's led to a bilateral ceasefire and a relative cooling of some of the fighting between the government and these armed groups. And then the third, and I think, many of these armed organizations no longer depend exclusively on drugs as the principal source of income. Now they've diversified their portfolio, so to speak. They have illegal mining, they have human smuggling, they have extortion, right? And so Colombia's violence is becoming more complex, much more interwoven into global illegal economies. And of course, the mining sector can't choose where it operates. It has to operate in the areas where there's resources. And so in some of those areas, there's specific local dynamics of crime that need to be addressed or need to be mitigated. And then there are also interwoven elements that correspond to these insurgent groups or criminal organizations and insurgencies that also need to be understood well. All in all, I think the perception of violence and the perception of crime is getting worse in Colombia. The capacity of some of these groups is improving, and the intent to target, has remained unchanged. However, some of these bilateral ceasefires have created a relative calm in that we haven't seen, major kidnapping events or major terrorist attacks against critical infrastructure as there used to be back in the day. So I think, it's a mixed bag. It's definitely not as positive as the government would want it to sound, but it's also not chaos.
I've seen where companies have had success when they go in and work with the local people, not just rely on the politicians in Bogota, but they've come in first and engaged with the local community to make sure that the populace is on their side. There's a talk going on right now about how mining companies, big commercial mining companies, can work with artisanal miners rather than compete or have a conflict with them, but really work kind of in form of symbiosis. What advice would you give to mining operators if they're looking at maybe either taking on a project in Colombia or looking obviously with a long-term vision? What is the best strategy that you've seen work to mitigate the different types of risk? The political risk, obviously, the physical risk, and then of course the financial risk of their investment.
Well, I think in your question you sort of framed the answer as well. I think having a long-standing, positive, and collaborative working relationship with local communities is the best security, both in social terms and security terms, that companies can have. If the local actors perceive that the company, one, is there to stay, two, will help strengthen their economy, and three, will not, go away and leave them hanging when things get tough. Those are three elements that the local community will stand up for the company when things go south. And those are three elements that companies need to work with a very, very intentional mindset from the very beginning of the exploration.
Sergio, every year I see you here at Colombia Gold Summit, now CGS, because it's expanded to copper and silver. Why is this event so important? You're busy, but you make the trip every year from Bogota. Why CGS? Why this event?
Well, Loren, I think Colombia has such a huge mining potential in gold, and our focus has been so much on coal that it sort of blurs the picture. And so having an event that is so complete, that looks at all the different areas, exploration, social, legal, and political risk for this industry that has so much potential in Colombia, is the place where you want to be.
I agree. You are, in my universe, the foremost expert on risk, and you have your consultancy firm. I know that you have a founding partner, but Colombia Risk Analysis. How can people find out? I know that you have a website and you have both kind of free summaries and then also more in-depth report. Give people an idea of how they can communicate or how they can find out more about Colombia Risk Analysis, if
Absolutely.
you will.
People can find out about Colombia Risk Analysis by going to our website, www.colombiariskanalysis.com. All our socials are at Colombia Risks, and we offer both subscription services for the general person that wants to understand, to more bespoke conferences or reports that can be written according to whatever a client wants, both in English and Spanish, and I think that's something that makes us unique in Colombia as well.
Sergio, always great to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Loren.